This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, don't carry nothing but the righteous and the holy. This train is bound for glory, this train. This train don't carry no deceivers, this train. This train don't carry no deceivers, this train. This train don't carry no deceivers, no posers, no bullies, no racists or blasphemers. This train don't carry no blasphemers, this train. Who here today is heaven bound? Yay! Look at you. Yeah. We're all on that train for glory, aren't we? So, second question. Who here is earthly bound today? We're all here, aren't we? Yeah? The word bound is interesting because it has two completely different meanings. One is to be on your way, right? I'm bound for Macintoons. I'm bound for South America. I'm bound for Japan. But it also means to be locked in, to be bound up, to not be going anywhere, which is an interesting thing for one word. We can be bound for something, or we can be bound to something. And as we have all agreed, we're bound for glory. We're bound for heaven. We know that when we get to that place, it will be a place that is filled with the divine. Nothing else in heaven but God and joy and peace and love and all of those things that we all search for in our lives. It's all there is there. But this world that we are bound to now, today, is not exactly like that, is it? There's a lot of other stuff going on here around us as we make our way through this world. And so if we want to find those things that are abundant in heaven, we have to search for them here. We have to work to find the divine. We have to work to find love. We have to work to find truth and peace and freedom in those things that we search for. The story of Paul and Silas this morning has the word bound in it, doesn't it? Because as they were in prison, the jailer bound them in that prison. And he closed those doors and locked them. And then he chained them to the floor. They were as bound can get, right? And the jailer went to bed and he was happy as a clam. He knew those guys weren't going anywhere, right? So then there's an earthquake. And the doors swing open and the chains all break miraculously. And the jailer wakes up and he goes, "Oh no, they've escaped. I've failed at my only job. I'm in so much trouble." And he goes to commit suicide. And Paul says, "Hey, dude, we're still here." And the jailer can't believe it. And so he goes in and sees the doors open, sees the chains broken, and here's Paul and Silas sitting right where they were when they were bound there, no longer bound to the jail. But they didn't run away. They didn't escape. They stayed right there. because even though the chains and the doors no longer bound them to the jail, they were still heavenly bound. They were still under the oath, the vows that they took as Christians to do the right thing, to care for people, to spread Christ's love into the world, and not to run away, but to have this be a moment of evangelism, of spreading the good news. And at this point, the jailer's ready to hear anything, because he's on the edge, the precipice of life. And so he says, tell me what it is that makes people act the way that you're acting. And so they tell him the story, they tell him the good news. And he says, I'm in, take me. And they baptize him and his whole family. And it becomes an event of evangelism, not a catastrophe. And the kingdom of heaven on earth grows, right? Bringing more people, more disciples in to the family of Christians. That's one of our goals. One of the things that we're here to do is to increase the family and the kingdom. Now, we have to assume that the jailer probably lost his life or his job over this deal, but it may have saved his life. And that's a pretty good trade. So in John's gospel, he tells us in so many words that to be bound to Christ is to be bound to each other. If you take your vows to Christ seriously, then we are taking vows to each other as well, to be people of love and compassion, and to care for and to feed and to house and to do whatever we can do to improve the lives of our neighbors. He says, the glory that you have given me, I have given them, so that they may be one, as we are one, right? And in that pericope that was read so well this morning, if you go through there and count, you will see that the words I and me are in there 17 times. And the words you or Father are in there 19 times. And the words they, them, us, we, as the disciples, are in there 16 times. So every time John mentions Jesus, he mentions God, he mentions us. God, us, Jesus. Jesus, us, God. Around and around and around, building this web that shows us how we are all woven together. And one small distinction I'd like to make is that he does not say that we are as one. He says we are one. Definitively. No wiggle room. We are one. And this is a popular thing, and many people understand this. In the other Gospel of John, Lennon, he says, I am he, as you are he, and you are me, and we are all together. Cuckoo-ka-choo. Almost everybody got that one. So, Christianity is a team sport. And just as any team sport knows, if you have one guy that thinks he's in charge of everything and he's the rock star that everybody else leans on and he's the one that's going to save the day, the team is probably not going to fare very well until everybody understands that they are all dependent on each other. So individualism can be the greatest threat to a true understanding of what it means to be the church and what it means to be a Christian. In the 12-step recovery program, we pray for the knowledge of God's will for us and the power to carry that out. That's it. That's all I need. I want to know God's will for me. What is the piece in the puzzle for building the kingdom that I was created to fill? Help me discern where I belong, where God needs me today, and then just give me the strength to be able to do what I need to do. Because it's not always easy. Being a Christian is not always easy. Sometimes we have to do really hard things. So we ask God to give us the power and the strength to do the things that he wants us to do. There's an old story about Rabbi Isaac. And Rabbi Isaac was the son of Rabbi Yekel of Krakow. And Rabbi Isaac, like a lot of his contemporaries, was very poor. He was destitute. And one night he had this dream. And in his dream, he dreamt that in Prague, which was way over in Moravia, that in Prague there was a palace for the king, and there was a bridge that led to that palace, and that at the bottom of the bridge there was a treasure beyond imagination. And he woke up and he thought, wow, that was a bizarre dream. And 6 months later, he had the same dream again. And a month later, he had it again. And he said, there is something powerful about this dream that keeps reoccurring I need to pay attention to. And finally, he got up the courage and he put a pack on his back and he set out for Prague, which was about 300 miles away. So even at 20 miles a day, we're talking 15 days of walking to get to Prague. And when he gets to Prague, he finds the palace of the king. And just like in the dream, here's a bridge that leads right up to the palace. But right in the spot in front of the bridge where the treasure was in his dream, there's a guard. And around him, there's a bunch of other guards. And he's like, yeah, these guys aren't going to think too much of it if I go start digging. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And finally it gets dark and he lays down, and the next morning he gets up and contemplates how he's going to get this treasure, and assuming that, well, God sent me here, so there'll be an opening. I just have to wait. And so day after day after day, he stays at that bridge in front of the palace and waits for his opening, for his chance to get at the treasure. And finally, one of the guards notices him and says, hey, buddy, what the heck are you doing here? Are you lost? Are you waiting for somebody? What's the deal? So Rabbi Isaac tells him the story of the dream. And says, that's why I'm here, because the dream told me there is a treasure at the base of this bridge. And the guard just laughed. He says, are you kidding me? You completely wore out a good pair of shoes to come all the way from Krakow, all the way over here, just because of a dream? You got to be nuts. He said, if dreams came true, years ago, I had a dream. And he said, in my dream, I was told that there was a treasure of great value, and it was buried beneath the stove in Krakow that belonged to a guy named Rabbi Isaac, who was the son of Rabbi Yekel in Krakow. He said, I knew I was crazy. I didn't give up everything and go. And Rabbi Isaac looked at the guy and realized he hadn't told him his name. He hadn't told him his father's name, and he hadn't told him that he was from Krakow. And he said, now something really weird is going on. I'm going home. And so he marched the 15 days back to Krakow, went back to his house, pushed the stove out of the way, and dug up a treasure of immense value and changed the life for his whole family. When Martin Buber tells this story, he sums it up this way. He says, there is something that can only be found in one place. It is the greatest of all treasures. The place where this treasure can be found is the place on which one stands, where your boots hit the ground. That's where the treasure is. The greatest treasure is the gift of being present. The greatest treasure is the gift of gratitude for life itself, just as it is, here and now. I was raised in the generation of Mad Magazine, and Alfred E. Newman said, most of us don't know what we want in life, but we're darn sure we don't have it. Brothers and sisters, we are not bound for a divine encounter in some distant eternity. We are bound to the divine here and now. Salvation is not something that we work for here in order to receive somewhere else. Ascension is not an event. It's a process. And it's ongoing every day of our lives. And every time we make another right decision, every time that we exhibit love and compassion, and we move towards those things that Christ teaches us to be, we are ascending bit by bit. Not to heaven, but still on earth. Everybody just stop for a second. Stop making your grocery lists. Stop thinking about how am I going to get my lawn mowed. Stop thinking about all the work that's waiting for you back at the office tomorrow morning when you get back. Just stop for a second and open your eyes and open your heart. This is it. Right now. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. Every gift of the kingdom of God is right here, right now. The presence of the divine is thick here among us. Look around. See the spirit of the divine in those who surround you at this moment. And then close your eyes and see it in yourself. All aboard.